Episodes 1 through 3 of The Wheel of Time Season 3 are out. I've already reviewed Episode 1, and today we're going to dive into Episode 2 of Season 3. And now in this video, we're going to recap the episode. I'll let you know what I loved, what I didn't love, and then I'll give the episode a rating. So let's jump into Episode 2 of The Wheel of Time, titled A Question of Crimson. Let's get started with a quick recap of the main plot lines of the episode. Now, the episode kicks off with a younger and preggers, Morgase Trakand, being coronated to the throne of Andor and accepting the surrender of her rivals. Except, rather than simply accepting their fealty, she goes all red wedding on them and has their throats slit to make sure that no one can challenge her throne again. Flash forward to the present, we have Queen Morgase and her sons Galad and Gawyn, her consort Lord Gaebril, and her Aes Sedai advisor Elayne, all making a surprise visit to Tar Valon. Now, they come before the Hall of the Tower, and after a tense discussion where Morgase demands to know about Elayne's safety, the Amyrlin agrees to take Morgase to see her personally. After reuniting, Morgase informs Elayne that she will be coming home and that it's no longer safe for Elayne to remain in the tower and that the succession of the throne is too important. Siuan, having few allies that she can trust and realizing that the Black Aja may be a bigger threat than they thought, enlists Nynaeve and Elayne to become her hounds to seek out the Black Aja in the tower. Now, in doing so, Elayne is also faced with a choice of going back to Andor with her mother and abandoning Nynaeve, or disobeying her mother. Elayne ends up telling her mother to F off and that she's going to stay and become an Aes Sedai and that Morgase can't protect her completely. Morgase relents but leaves Elayne and Gawyn and Galad to train in the tower. Now, also going on in the tower, Mat struggles to get healing for his lost memories, the memories that he's experiencing, despite help from Nynaeve and the Yellow Aja. He spends time trying to hook up with novices in the tower and showing off the Horn of Valyr until he meets with the Amyrlin, and she tells him that he will be the target because of it, and she then takes it off his hands. He is also reunited with Min, but they don't start things off very nicely here, as he's a little bitter after being sold out to Ashamael in the prior season. Meanwhile, Perrin and Loial and Bane and Chiad decide that Perrin's desire to leave his friends and go home to see his dead wife is so strong that they brave the deadly ways rather than simply journeying by foot. They arrive in the Two Rivers and head back into the village. When they arrive in the village, they discover that Trollocs have been attacking those in the Two Rivers as well as the White Cloaks. The White Cloaks are looking for Perrin as they believe that he killed one of them, and he did. Also in the village are Alanna and her remaining warder Maxim. Going on simultaneously, we have Moiraine, Lan, Rand, Egwene, and Aviendha headed on the way to the Waste. They ascribe to the Fellowship of the Ring style of questing out into the world, and they believe that horses are not necessary, so they start the long walk to the Io Waste. After Rand trains a bit with a sword with Lan, the group rests a bit before continuing on into the Waste. Lanfear continues to simultaneously torment Egwene in her dreams with visions of Rhenna, while making sexy time with Rand in his dreams. Ultimately, while Egwene is being choked out in her sleep, she inadvertently travels to the Waste inside the dream and meets an Aiel Dreamwalker. At the very end of the episode, the group arrives in the Waste and they are surrounded by Aiel that seemingly knew they were coming, and Egwene meets the very same Dreamwalker that she saw in her dream. Alright, that's the recap. And before we get into what I did like and what I didn't like for the episode, let's first take a minute and like the video if you like this type of content. Also, subscribe to the channel if you like Wheel of Time related content, as that is what I make here on this channel. But let's get into the things I really liked from episode 2. First, let me start with Siuan. I really enjoyed not only Sophie Akinato's performance, but also the character of Siuan in this episode. This is the most screen time I think we've gotten of her just being the Amyrlin, so it was nice to see. We saw some of the moments that we get from the books with her, with some of her conversations, and they were just really, really good. We also got more of her that we didn't see in the books, but we know happened off screen, like Morgase coming to Tar Valon in search of Elayne and their ensuing argument. I particularly loved the scenes with Siuan and Morgase, and then Siuan and Mat. Particularly the scene with Siuan and Mat was really fun. I think it captured both of their characters really, really well. I think the scenes of Gaebril were also really well done. I was a little hesitant when I heard that we were going to have Lord Gaebril this early, but I think it was done well. And I think the foreshadowing and pauses when he's introduced, I thought those were really cool to see if you knew what you were looking for. Obviously setting up that he's using compulsion at that very moment. He was also very, very likable likable, and I really like some of the other casual name drops like Gareth Bryn and troubles at home that we've heard that Morgase is dealing with. I think they're really doing some foreshadowing with the Andor plot lines, and with Gabriel, I think they're playing that out really well. One other thing I was really worried about, given how much I've liked Alana and Leandrin in the show so far, is whether or not I would hate Gawain and Galad as is proper. And I can say that after this episode, I officially think they have the appropriate level of douchery. So I do hate Gawain and Galad, and that is outstanding. I think the dynamic of Elayne and Morgase was also played out very, very well. I think Morgase coming across is fairly believable in her protection of Elayne and her reasons for doing so. I also like that Elayne is strong. And I'm really enjoying Keira Coveney's performance. I mentioned that in the last video as well. Another thing I really love is the way that Matt's character is playing out. As I've mentioned before, I think he's a notoriously difficult character to write and portray, and I think Donal is getting the tone of the character right. Hearing him described by Swan like her uncle who was a hero is really cool. By the way, that's like straight out of the books. I'm looking forward to more of Matt this season as they're giving him a lot more to do, so I'm just really excited with Matt's character. Another scene that I really enjoyed was just seeing Lan and Rand practicing the sword and hearing Rand describing why he learns the sword when he can just channel. There wasn't a ton of Rand in this episode. I suspect we'll have quite a bit of Rand in the episodes to come, but it was good to see Rand and Lan finally connecting and practicing the sword. It was also really nice to see the two rivers again and see Perrin back there. Even if I hated the reasons and how he came there, which I'll discuss more in a moment. The Perrin arc in the Two Rivers is one of my favorite plot lines in the books, so it's really cool to see some of the pieces coming into place to make it all happen. So let's discuss what I did not like from the episode. And we'll start with that cold open. This one isn't a deal breaker for me, but for somebody who hasn't read the books, I think that cold open will make total sense. I think it's just par for the course with fantasy TV. It felt like a scene very much out of Game of Thrones. I think for book readers, however, I think it just feels off. That's not really that big of a deal to me because the show isn't made solely for book readers and it's not a huge plot point, but I'm sure it doesn't sit well with many of you that have read the books because it's so antithetical to Morgase's actual rise to power in the books and the rules of how a succession works in Andor. While it's likely that they're going to skip the whole Andoran succession plotline in the show, and I really hope they do, it doesn't sit right to see Morgase have a child's throat cut. Another thing that I didn't love from the episode sort of ties back to the previous episode, and it's that I wish they gave Perrin a strong reason to return to the Two Rivers other than I want to go home. And I have a couple reasons for saying this. For one, Perrin left in the books because they had heard bad things were going on back in the Two Rivers, and Matt and Rand were not available to go, so it fell to Perrin. That's what necessitated Perrin rushing back via the ways, and also the gut punch that he was too late, because when he gets back there, he was too late to save his family. They had all been killed. That's what gives this entire plotline emotional weight, and to see the villagers react to him knowing that his family was gone and trying to be protective of him, all of that made sense because of what was going on in that village, and he was the one that rushed back. Because they didn't really give him a reason to go home, it makes very little sense for them to take the ways to get there, number one. We've seen how dangerous the ways are. We've seen the fact that nobody wants to take them. So to casually take the ways because you don't want to take the long walk and you're not really in a hurry anyway just doesn't make sense. Also, I don't see Perrin leaving the entire group selfishly without a good reason, as he's always been a person of duty and somebody who does what must be done. That's what felt off to me, and it just seems like something that would have been so easy for them to add in the previous episode is just to hear a hint of something going down in the Two Rivers, and he's the guy to go. The other thing I didn't love, again, I understand the reasons, but I don't love that we didn't get Tam. I like that they at least gave a reason why he wasn't there, that he was off protecting Perrin's family, but Tam is such a beloved and key character that I just hate that he wasn't there when we got to meet Alana. And the last thing, and this is again a carryover from episode 1, but again, can men and women see each other's weaves or not? We see Gabriel clearly casting compulsion on people with no weaves visible because only women are around, which tracks. But then we see Rand channeling right in front of Moiraine and her appearing to stare right at what he's doing with curiosity. I don't know what else she'd be looking at if she couldn't see the weaves. Again, is this a huge deal? No, but I wish they'd be consistent and just follow their own rules. So overall, what did I think of episode 2? Well, I think it was a solid episode. It really serves as more of a setup episode than anything else, introducing some new characters, some new plot lines, and advancing the A-plot for the season. I think there was some cool setup, and I think we're likely to get that payoff here in the next few episodes, which I think will be fun. You could argue that episode 2 was largely uneventful, and I agree, but these types of episodes are necessary in moving the full season's plotline forward. So as for my rating, this was a solid episode, and while it wasn't incredible, it was a solid entry. I'll give it a 7.5 5 out of 10. What do you think? Let me know in the comments of the video, and let me know if my rating is wrong. Go ahead and give the video a like while you're at it, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Wheel of Time content. Huge thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. You make all of this content possible. You can become a patron just by clicking the link in the description of the video. And lastly, if you liked this video, I'm sure you're going to like one of these ones here as well. Thank you for watching, and until next time, peace out.